Jacob is trying again to steal the blessings of Joseph. After 15 years of studying the whole Bible, I went into an in-depth study of the Old Testament. As a Christian, I wanted to study the whole of biblical prophecy, not just the prophecy of the New Testament, which, at the time, I believed consisted mainly of what Jesus said and what John said in Revelation. I quickly noticed three things. 1. The people of the faith in the Old Testament were called Hebrews. When they were called Judah, they were referring to a tribe, one of the 12 tribes. Then in the prophets, sometimes the house of Jacob. So the people called Hebrews were all of the 12 tribes. 11 of those tribes were not Jewish. Only one tribe, Judah, was. The people of the tribe of Judah, who also were referred to in prophecy as the house of Jacob, were the only Jews. 2. And that there were other people of the faith who the term Hebrew included within the prophets were called house of Israel, which I found out was also called the 10 tribes, which did not include the tribe of Judah, were not Jewish. The third thing I found, that 1/2 of the tribe of Benjamin, which was not Jewish, who was originally one of the 10 tribes of the house of Israel, and 1/12 of the tribe of Levi, the priestly tribe, who were not Jewish, also joined with the house of Judah, Jews. Originally, each of the 12 tribes has 1/12 of the tribe of Levite assigned to them. Ezekiel speaks of this in his chapter 17, and the Apostle Paul in Romans chapter 11, verse 24. The grafting in of the olive tree. One branch that was not broken off, which would represent Judah. One branch that was grafted into the tree, which would represent Christians. A third branch, which was natural to and previously part of the olive tree, was going to be grafted back into it in the future, which would represent the 10 tribes who were not Jewish. Jeremiah tells us that the Lord gives Israel, house of, a bill of divorce because of her backsliding, but did not divorce her treacherous sister Judah, house of, who had done as bad or even worse, but who turned unto the Lord, but not with all her whole heart, but fringently. Definition, to pretend to, as if to deceive. So Jeremiah confirms Paul's teaching. One branch is broken off, divorced, and the one that stayed on the olive tree, house of Judah, Jeremiah tells us there is something wrong with it. The prophet Hosea shows us in his 14th chapter what the regrafting in again of the natural branch would look like. Verse 1, O Israel, we know this is the house of, return unto the Lord thy God, for thou hast fallen by thy iniquity. Verse 4, I will heal their backsliding, I will love them freely, for mine anger is turned away from him. I will be as the dew unto Israel, he shall grow as the lily, and cast forth his roots as Lebanon. His branches shall spread, and his beauty shall be as the olive tree, and his smell as Lebanon. They that dwell under his shadow shall return. They shall revive as the corn, and grow as the vine. The scent thereof shall be as the wine of Lebanon. Note, because of the tribe of Ephraim being here, we know, verse 1 is speaking to the house of Israel, because the tribe of Ephraim was the leader of the house of Israel, where the 10 tribes got their kings. Verse 8, Ephraim shall say, what have I to do any more with idols? I have heard him and observed him. I am like a green fir tree. From me is thy fruit found. Who is wise? And he shall understand these things. Prudent, and he shall know them. For the ways of the Lord are right, and the just shall walk in them, but the transgressors shall fall therein. Note, to paraphrase, verse 9, Hosea is saying, you're going to need to know the whole 2 houses concept of prophecy to understand what this and other Bible prophecy is about. Because of this, I noticed that the Jews, at some point in history, had taken on themselves a false identity. Their true identity is that they come from the tribe of Judah, half of the tribe of Benjamin, and 1/12 of the Levites, with 1/2 of the 1/12 Levites given to the tribe of Benjamin. And the Jews had taken on a false identity of the 10 tribes of the house of Israel that the Lord had divorced. So 3,400 plus years ago, Jacob purchased the birthright from Esau with the bow of pottage. That was a legitimate deal. I believe the Lord had a better way for Jacob to legitimately get the birthright away if only Jacob had waited on God, and in God's way he would not have incurred Esau's jealousy. But Jacob was a trickster and would not wait. Jacob listened to his mother, who, it must be pointed out, was the sister of Laban. Laban is the very example of someone who could not be trusted because he cheated people in business deals. In listening to his mother's advice, Jacob brought God's displeasure upon himself. His mother brought God's wrath upon herself with the words, let the curse fall upon me. And it did. Once Jacob left, she never saw him again, whereas his father he did see again. Jacob stole the blessings. God loved Jacob and hated Esau. So I believe the Lord, the creator of the universe, also had a way of transferring the blessings to Jacob without entailing with them the curse that comes with lying and stealing. But again, Jacob would not wait, so he moved on his mother's advice. The Lord was either able to convey both of these items, the birthright and the blessings, without Esau's jealousy and anger, or the Lord would physically remove Esau from the equation for good, which would not have given heaven a reason to bring down the wrath that came, which entailed Jacob so long away from his parents. And for some reason, there were no betrothal gifts, riches, given by his father and his mother for Jacob to give to Laban, like was given to Abraham's servant in order to obtain Rebekah for Isaac. Jacob was sent empty-handed to obtain Rachel and was tricked by Laban to obtain Leah, and then tricked by both of Laban's daughters to obtain Bilhah and Zilpah. Jacob had obtained with great craft and treachery the birthright and the blessings, but he did not possess character of heart to carry or wield them. Heaven had to knock the desire to manipulate people and treachery, which were both sins, out of him. Isaac must have known this and sent Jacob a pauper to his wife's brother for this lesson to be learned. I am sure Jacob's mother knew her brother's nature, and she knew what advantages Laban would take on her son. Or both Jacob's parents loved him so much, and they knew that Esau, seeing Jacob leave with a caravan of daddy's wealth as a betrothal gift, would be the last straw, and Esau would take Jacob's life. Either way, Jacob was, as they say, into the wind, without a song or a prayer. Hence the need for the deal Jacob cut with the Lord in Genesis chapter 28. If Jacob had waited for God's way, instead of taking matters into his own hands and taking his mother's advice, Jacob would have obtained the birthright and the blessings the way heaven had planned. Jacob, or a servant, would have gone to get Rachel with a load of wealth to be given to Laban, which would have saved him 20 years. Jacob's mother would not have had the curse called down upon her head, so his mother would have lived to a ripe old age and helped raise her 12 sons and one daughter, which would have been birthed by one woman, who would have been Rachel. You might ask, Laban would not let Rachel be married before her older sister Leah was married. Do you think heaven couldn't get Leah married? Laban saw that he was blessed because of Jacob. Laban wanted a reason to have Jacob working for him for another 7 years. That is the real reason Leah had to be married first. Jacob, with the favor of the Lord, would have found this out. And if not, Jacob would have found out that money talks, or in this case, he would have found out that camels talk. Well, not exactly talk, but you know what I mean. Jacob became a liar and a cheater, whether he set out to do it or he too easily fell into it. Because of what happened at the stairway or ladder dream, it was obvious the Lord saw potential, but the doss had to be removed first. So the Lord, through his parents, gave him a mentor who could outlie and cheat him. He is perhaps one of the greatest in history, as his name is connected with those traits. Jacob wanted to manipulate people into what he wanted or needed, so the Lord rubbed Jacob's nose in lying and cheating until Jacob didn't want any more of it in his entire life. You can see this in Genesis chapter 34, when his two sons, Simeon and Levi, use those traits and how he explains what might befall them for doing so. It is safe to say that at some point during the 20 years he was tutored, he didn't want any more of it his entire life. Heaven's work had been done. Jacob's heart had changed. This set a precedent in Scripture. The school the Lord enrolled Jacob in was not giving him the best mentor, but rather the mentor Jacob needed, the worst. This action caused Jacob to change his ways, which eventually changed his heart. The whole wrestling with the angel in Genesis chapter 32 is the 20-year lesson laid out. Again, Jacob gets what he wants, but it comes with a cost, in his thigh being out of joint for the rest of his life. Perhaps this was the final exam heaven gave that broke Jacob so much, so his name was changed to recognize it. He no longer wanted to manipulate people to get what he thought he wanted. He would wait on God and have God bless him with whatever he was supposed to have. When this heart change happened, the Lord changed Jacob's name. From Jacob, he shall follow, or seize by the heel, to Israel. God contends, or one who struggles with God, the name which eventually became to be known as God's people. The Jews who in biblical prophecy are called the house of Jacob, who, because of Jacob's blessing upon his deathbed, have received from heaven the birthright, which is conformed by heaven and God's promise to David. But the Jews who came out of the tribe of Judah are trying to steal the blessings all over again. Jacob on his deathbed gave his, or rather heaven's desire, to each of his sons, who were the head of the 12 tribes. Jacob's verbal will was then transferred to each of the tribes. The birthright was given to Judah in the words, "The scepter shall not depart from Judah." The blessings was given to Joseph in the words, "Even by the God of thy father, who shall help thee, and by the Almighty, who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breast and the womb. The blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bounds of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren." The blessing was securely transferred or empowered by the events of chapter 48, with Israel's second portion, blessings upon Joseph's 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. Because they did not come out of the tribe of Judah, Joseph was not Jewish, nor were his 2 sons. Because the Jews are deceiving the world and themselves by claiming they are all the 12 tribes of Israel, in so doing they are trying to steal the heaven-ordained blessings that have been given to Joseph by Jacob Israel. The Jews have received a similar judgment to that which befell Rebekah. The loss of life shall not be total, but very severe. And until the tribes of Judah, Jews, rectifies this lie, and they explain to the whole world that, number 1, they are the natural branch of the olive tree, not divorced. They are only 1/12 of the tribe of Israel, with part of Benjamin and a tiny portion of the Levites, and that the 10 tribes are the branch divorced that will be grafted back into the olive tree, that the 10 tribes are still scattered throughout the nations. 2, the second Exodus was never supposed to produce a state of Israel, but rather the kingdom of Israel, along with 2 other kingdoms, the kingdom of Egypt and the kingdom of Assyria. 3, the third temple cannot be built by a red heifer sanctification, which will not sanctify the temple mount. The only way it can be sanctioned by heaven is for the latter-day David, who the Jews call Messiah ben Joseph, to end World War III on top of Temple Mount, as the scripture says. And contrary to what we Christians have been misled to believe, these prophecies must be fulfilled before Messiah ben David, the royal Messiah, who is Jesus, can return. For further information on this topic, please go to our website, 2exodus.com. God bless you. This is Dan Griffey.